to introduce Kim Sinclair, the Executive Director for Autism Society Los Angeles, and Andy Kopito, the President of Autism Society Los Angeles. And this is our first presentation where we have our co-affiliates in California present. So we are so happy to have you and can't wait to hear what you have to share. Welcome, Andy and Kim.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. Um, Thank you very much for the invitation to come. We're so excited to have Autism Society of Orange County as part of the Autism Society family. So welcome, everyone. Um, we are also known as ASLA by the Latino community and then ASLA. So sometimes you'll hear multiple references to us, and we're all the same people. And we also have another team member with us this evening. Rhonda Capito is here, our resource specialist. Thanks for joining, Rhonda. You can find out more about us at autismla.org, and you can reach out to us at info@autismla.org, and our phone number is 424-299-1531. I wanted to just kick off with telling you a little bit about ASLA and also some opportunities that we have for the community to engage in. I have been involved with ASLA for over 11 years as a staff member, and I've been in the disability community as both with lived experience and professional experience for over 23 years. And interrupt me at any time with any questions, and I will try and answer. Otherwise, I have my team here, and hopefully we have the answer between us. So we are all about empowering individuals with autism. And even though we have autism in our name, we very much support other people with developmental disabilities as well, and their families and professionals through advocacy, education, and community support. And we're all about ensuring an equitable quality of life for all. You'll find each Autism Society affiliate has different strengths. So when we looked at what Robin just walked us through on your calendar, you had a strong mix of social and educational component. We only have one social program, an art program, and most of the other service offerings are educational. Everything we do has an educational slant, and I'll walk you through that in a moment. So we're all about creating connections and empowering everyone in the autism community and the developmental disability community. So one of our really signature, we have two main signature offerings, and one of them is our resource warm line. And Rhonda, who waved at us a moment ago, is our resource specialist, and people can reach out to us for phone and email support. When we say warm line, it means that there's not somebody who's going to pick up the phone immediately when you dial it. You can leave a message and we will reach out to you. Or you can email us and we'll reach back out to you. We're really proud of how quickly we respond to people. And even if we do not know the answer, we will connect you with resources that do. The other thing is that we're proud of is that we don't give you the fish necessarily, but we teach you how to fish so that you can take those skills, which the team works through with you, and go and advocate for yourself. And then as you need more assistance, you can come back and we'll keep on building on that foundation that we've established together. So people from all walks of life contact us. We have self-advocates, families, professionals, lots and lots of different people, and we try and help them out. Rhonda, anything else you want to add on the resource warm line?
No, hi everyone. I'm Rhonda. Yes, please. We encourage people to reach out if they have any questions. I often say if somebody tells you or you hear something in the community and you don't know, is this true? Or if there's, if this is something you should be looking into, you could always reach out and set up an appointment, and we can connect and I can help walk you through any questions that you have. It's wonderful to be here. And thanks, Kim.
Yes. So something that we are also do a lot of is trainings on self-determination. So we've trained thousands of parents and individuals on the new self-determination law. So we all know that regional centre has their service offerings, and typically that's been through the traditional stream, but we can also go through the new self-determination program to receive services which are more person-centered. So we also have trained hundreds of individuals to become independent facilitators who guide you through that process. And we were the co-signers and co-lead in developing that law many, many years ago. We provide training up and down California, actually, including RCOC. And a lot of the contracts we get with these regional centers, they can include people outside of their catchment. So we have had people from Orange County come to other trainings as well. Just so you know that that's always happening, and that's something that we specialize in. We also conduct major conferences and summits that have hundreds and hundreds of people over the years have come. And we've focused in the past on adult housing and employment, education, self-determination. And it's all about increasing education and advocacy skills. We also have the opportunity of our next summit coming up on September 16th, 2026. We have people from around California who attend these summits. And the focus of this one is going to be navigating systems of support, especially focused on the transition age through adulthood. And I'll put the flyers in the chat once I finish talking. But if you want to grab your cameras and take a photo of this now, or if you want to take a photo of the QBR code, it will take you to the login. The important thing to remember is it is regional center funded. Go through the traditional route. You can go to your service coordinator and request funding under PH0898, which is our vendor code, or through self-determination through your spending plan with your FMF. And we are going to provide support both in English, Spanish, and Korean on that day. There's going to be incredible panelists that have lived experience, that have with self-advocates and parents and professionals on them. And it's just an incredible day of gathering information and thinking about what other people are doing and what you want to do with your life or your loved one, what they want to do. And it gives you the opportunity to tap into people and talk to people, like-minded people, and share experiences and talk to our sponsors who are really active in our community as well. It's just a really motivating and empowering day. So we hope to see some of you there. And we will work with Robin to get those flyers out into your community as well. So the other thing that we do is through all of our networking, we have educational partnerships. So some of these, for example, have been with medical professionals. With all different types of organizations, we go into places of worship, into schools, into businesses, and we're all about inclusion and breaking down barriers for our community, helping educate people. We have speaker series similar to when you have the gentleman this week who's coming to talk. And the topics include fair hearings, social security, benefits, IEPs, adult transition, employment, residential options, and Department of Rehab. In anticipation of the upcoming summit, we're going to have a new series kicking off shortly. And if you go to our website and go to the Get Involved and register for our newsletter, you'll learn about more opportunities there as they come up. And also we post a lot on our Facebook page, which is Autism LA. I remember right at the beginning, I talked about our two signature programs. The second one is training of law enforcement. This is something that we're very passionate about. We go into LAPD 2 to 3 times a month and train law enforcement officers who are getting training with the MEU, Medical Evaluation Unit, about autism and developmental disabilities. The objective is to improve the outcome of an interaction with the officer and create a bridge to the community. And it's something that we go into. We have self-advocates that come in with us, and it's something that's been going since many, many years, since 2006. And we have trained many, many officers every month. And the feedback that we receive from the officers is that the tips and techniques and the toolkit that we are providing them is making a difference to the safety outcome for our community. So that's really, really important. We also have a speakers bureau. So it's okay for professionals to go in, or for your mom and your dad, or people who have a loved one with autism. But what we are really trying to do is to partner with self-advocates, and they are part of our voice. It's majority of their voice that we want to have them talking to different organizations and people and sharing their lived experience. We have people with different disabilities and modes of communication who do this, and we provide stipends. So there is a small employment opportunity there as well. We are all about coalition building and partners and bridge building. So we have an incredible network across the community of organizations that are disability and non-disability related. And so we're in there doing presentations. We are looking for employment opportunities for our community. When we're in COVID, we're helping with food for food insecurity and masks for safety initiatives. So we really tap into those coalitions to basically amplify what we do inside the community. It's really important to us. We don't have a really strong public policy and advocacy arm that's up in Sacramento. We lean on other organizations who have expertise in that area. So I'm not sure if Robin is going to have Autism Society of Inland Empire come and visit at some point. But they are really strong in public policy. And so we lean into them to get advice and expertise in that area. And also other partners like State Council on Developmental Disability and Disability Rights California. We're all about not duplicating what somebody else is doing effectively, but actually collaborating or directing people to that resource so that we're able to maximize the impact on the community. So all of these pieces actually improve and feed into our mission. And right at the beginning, I mentioned we are really good at education. That is our core competency. So whether it's talking to somebody one-on-one through the resource form line, or whether it's talking to a group of officers, 30 to 40 officers, or whether it's doing self-determination training to a group of parents and professionals and self-advocates, in Spanish, Korean, or in English. Those are our specialty languages. We everything that we do is with the intent of some form of education. We are supported through our administration of funding, through events and membership and grants. And we have a board of directors and volunteers and ambassadors who also support these efforts. So I have another opportunity for our Regional Center Orange County folks. We were awarded funding and put together a grant, which is about to start implementing in second or third quarter this year. And it's for training of parent mentors to navigate generic systems of support. Now, the training is going to cover IHSS, Department of Rehab, Operational Knowledge of Landsman Act, and then the mentor as a business. Those first three, you're probably like, okay, well, I can go to State Council, I can go to DRC, and that's exactly right. What the magic piece of what we do is the workshops on the back end, where we look at scenarios and examples and provide you practical tools on how to navigate these. So if you haven't been in any of our trainings before, we'd love to invite you to participate or to apply to participate. And the final one is mentor as a business. So that as you become a parent mentor, you can look at the opportunity of potentially monetizing it and to actually help the community, especially those who are under self-determination, because they could have a line item in their spending plan that would support that. Um, it'll be the instructional piece, the lecture piece, but then, as I said, the special piece is the workshops that we provide. We'll be doing it in English and in Spanish via Zoom. It's in design at the moment, and the implementation will be third and fourth quarter of this year. If we'll, as we get the application form together, we will include Regional Center Orange County to send out to their members. But if you complete this form this evening, as we get the application flyer completed, we will send it to you so that you can get it directly from us. And so once again, if you want to get your cameras and take a photo either of the QBR code or on the link so that you have it and you can complete it at your leisure, it just basically asks for your name, your first name, last name, your phone number, your email, your regional center, and what training you're interested in. But I will know by the date that you are interested in potentially applying for this opportunity. So in summary, we have two opportunities for you guys. We would love, love, love to see you at the summit. And in addition, we would love you to apply to be part of the Parent Mentor program that we are going to be launching shortly. Any questions?
Thank you, Ken.
No worries. Handing over to Andy, who's going to give us a lot of information that we'll get more of at the summit as well. Cheers.
All right, everybody. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Great. Welcome. I'm Andy Kopito from the Autism Society of Los Angeles. So excited to be here. I hear you guys are going to have a wonderful training by an expert talking about financing and personal financing and personal financial wellness, which is a great topic. So tonight I'm going to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about how personal finances interact with benefits. And so hopefully this will maybe put some thoughts in your mind that you can follow as you go through the training that's going to happen tomorrow and next week. So what am I going to cover today? I'm going to talk about regional center benefits, Social Security benefits. I understand we have some questions on that. How to protect your eligibility for benefits. ABLE accounts, special needs trusts, and then I'll talk a little bit about housing because housing is really essential when we talk about personal financial wellness. So I want to start with really the challenge. What is the challenge for financial wellness for people in the disability community? Many people in the United States currently are facing significant financial challenges, particularly with the increased costs evident with inflation, with gas prices, et cetera. But all those challenges are made more significant when we talk about individuals and families that are affected by autism and other disabilities. Why is that? Well, if you look at recent studies, they show that only about 15% of people with autism have full-time paid employment, which is really an extremely low number. And so, many people do have work, but oftentimes that work is not full-time. And so they're potentially underemployed or it's volunteer type work. And so folks have a real hard time getting to a place where they can be financially independent. Because of that, and because of that low rate of paid employment, many people in the disability community are forced to rely on government benefits for a significant portion of their support. And we're pretty lucky here in California that there are a lot of supports available, but navigating those supports is actually quite challenging. And so hopefully, when I'm done here tonight, we'll answer some of the questions that you might have. The first thing I'm going to talk about is regional center benefits. And why is that important? Well, in the state of California, our regional centers um, provide free lifelong services to individuals with developmental disabilities. And so that's pretty unique that you have an opportunity to get services, that those services are available and they're free and lifelong and don't go away. What kind of services are available? They fall in four different categories. Therapies like physical, occupational, and behavioral therapy can apply to equipment like adaptive and specialized equipment, augmentative communication, etc. There are supports available for daily living, services to help people improve their daily living skills, how to, cook for themselves, do laundry, all those kind of things are potentially available through the regional center. And also transportation. They provide assistance with transportation needs. They provide some housing supports, as I mentioned, some supports for an independent living, but also residential care homes, often called group homes, are also available potentially through the regional center. And they even have opportunities for things like employment supports. They have a paid internship program, some career planning, and some vocational services, all available through your local regional center. And so in Orange County, that would be the regional center of Orange County that would provide those services in that area. Oops. So, who's eligible for regional center benefits? Well, regional center benefits are available for people who have developmental disabilities. And those are disabilities that begin before the individual's 18th birthday and are expected to continue indefinitely. And so, there are a lot of things, a lot of disabilities that it doesn't apply to, but there are a whole host of other disabilities that are lifelong, that do start early in life, and autism is one of them. But there are other ones like cerebral palsy and a host of other conditions that make you eligible for regional center benefits. Regional centers, while they can provide a lot, there's certain things that they don't provide. They don't provide services that are available through a generic resource. Services that are available through Medi-Cal, in-home supportive services, or called IHSS, uh, or in particular in school districts. And so for school-aged children, um, a lot of times they receive all the support they need, speech therapy, occupational therapy, special class education through their school district. Um, but it's really important, even if you are receiving all the support you need for a loved one who's in a school district, it's really important that they become a regional center client as soon as possible. Why? Because once they are older and age out of school district support, the regional center then would pick up those kind of supports and continue them uh, lifelong. And so, really important that if you have a developmental disability, that you become a regional center client, even if you're not actively getting services. What else can the regional center not provide? And this is a big one. They don't provide rent and mortgage payments. And that's one of the reasons why I'll talk about housing as we get to the end of the discussion. Because the regional centers, while they will potentially provide um, a group home setting, they won't offer rent and mortgage reimbursement. They also don't cover things like purely recreational items or experimental treatments. So this sounds really great, and regional centers are great. They do offer a lot of support. All these types of services are free, but unfortunately, just because you are eligible, um, and the regional center provides a service, it doesn't mean that the service is available. And this is a big concern because oftentimes we have people that are looking for like a group home setting so they can live independent from their family, but there just aren't any slots, any group homes available, or they're looking for some sort of day program to participate in, or a social recreation program to participate in. And if all the programs that the regional center offers are full, just because you're eligible, it doesn't mean that there is a slot available. And so sometimes there's quite a bit of waiting period of time before you can get the service that you want. And that's one of the reasons that the self-determination program is, so important for those who aren't happy with the kind of services they're getting from their regional center, because it allows you to hire the type of people to provide that service that aren't necessarily regional center vendors. And so it opens the possibility of many more opportunities to get a particular service. So that's the regional center. And so hopefully you're familiar with regional centers. And if you have a qualifying disability, that you are a member of that regional center. So let's talk a little bit about Social Security benefits. So regional centers are great, but we also have the opportunity to get Social Security benefits as well. And the Social Security Administration is a federal program, and it offers two significant programs for people with disabilities. The first one is called Supplemental Security Income, or SSI. So you'll hear that acronym a lot. And the second one is Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI. So two programs, and both provide cash payments, but they're very, very different in terms of their eligibility. SSI, Supplemental Security Income, is available to disabled adults and children with a significant disability that have limited resources. That means that you have to meet strict income limits to apply for SSI. You have to prove that you have a significant disability, and individuals who are receiving SSI are limited to having $2,000 in assets in a savings account, in a checking account, any sort of brokerage account. They're limited in the amount of resources that they can possess and still be eligible for SSI. SSI, fortunately, is available to people that may have never worked before. So if you had a developmental disability that had affected you lifelong and have been unable to find significant full-time employment, you won't have a big work history with Social Security, but you would still be eligible for the Supplemental Security Income Program as long as you're disabled, you meet the income limits, and you have limited resources under the $2,000 in assets. You could be eligible for SSI. Now, SSDI, the Social Security Disability Insurance Program, is different. It's available based on work history. That's your contributions that you've made as a working person to Social Security for that individual. And that's intended to cover people who might have worked their majority of their life, and then for whatever reason, they would be injured and they would be disabled. They would be eligible for SSDI. Now, that doesn't really apply to many people who have a developmental disability, which is supposed to be lifelong, which would have occurred before the age of 18. But fortunately for SSDI, there is an additional benefit for parents with a disabled child. If the parent can qualify for Social Security and they have a disabled child, they can apply for SSDI for that child once they start collecting their own Social Security. Now, that for that person, that disabled person receiving the benefits, there are strict income limits that do apply because if you could earn higher than the limits, higher than the limits, they wouldn't consider you disabled. They would consider you gainfully employed. Fortunately, on the SSDI program, there is not an asset limit that applies. And so that's a little better and a little easier than the SSI thing, where both your income and the amount of money that you have is restricted to be eligible. So, how do you maintain your benefits? Well, if you're eligible for SSI or SSDI, it's important that you maintain your income and assets below the government limits. And what are those limits? Again, just repeating, $2,000 in assets to be eligible for SSI, and SSDI, it's $1,690 a month of income is what they consider the top limit of income while you could still be available for SSDI. Now, it turns out that you have to be really careful if you're using these programs. Why? Because if you inherit some money, if you're given a gift, if you make a bunch of money or you have some taxable investment income, you got some money given to you and maybe it's earning money in an account, a taxable account, all those things can jeopardize both the asset limit for SSI and the income limit for SSDI. And would jeopardize your government benefits. And you could potentially have those benefits reduced, or if you hit a high enough threshold, those benefits would be eliminated entirely. Now, fortunately, owning your own home typically does not jeopardize government benefits. And so that is a fortunate thing. If you're lucky enough to be owning your own home, that typically isn't counted against you when we're talking about Social Security benefits. And I'll talk a little more about, the impacts of owning your own home when we get to the housing section at the end of the discussion. So, this is really an interesting predicament. There's these great benefit programs here in Social Security, SSI and SSDI, but, they have pretty strict limits of, how much money you can have and how much income you can make. And so, fortunately, there are legal mechanisms that can prevent the assets you have or the income you have from lowering government benefits. And so, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And the two ones I'm going to talk about are ABLE accounts and special needs trusts. And so, those are ways that you can avoid losing your benefits due to having assets above the $2,000 SSI limit. So let's start first with ABLE accounts. What are ABLE accounts? ABLE accounts are tax advantage savings accounts that are available for people with disabilities, and it allows them to save up to $100,000 while still being eligible for SSI. And so that's a huge advantage. That $2,000 limit is quite low. And, people would have a struggle to be able to maintain any sort of quality of life if that was the only place that they could have money. But with the passage of the ABLE Act in 2014, they created these special accounts where people could set up an account if they have disabilities, and those monies that get put in there can be uh, allowed to grow tax-free and don't jeopardize their government benefits. Where can the money come from? It can come from anywhere. It can come from parents. It can come from friends. It can come from gifts. And if you're actually working, you're allowed to contribute money to an ABLE account as well. What kind of features do they have? Well, if you're disabled, the disability must occur before age 46, which is a much higher limit than the regional center. Um, and how much money can you put in? Well, there is a restriction. The restriction goes up every year, but you're limited in 2026, this year, of contributing $20,000 to your ABLE accounts. Although, if you are working, you're allowed to contribute an additional amount as well. And so, what that means is, if someone wants to give you a gift and you're on SSI, you don't want to get them to give you a check. You want them to actually make a contribution to your ABLE account so you can both use that money, have it grow tax free, but also avoid jeopardizing your government benefits. So again, the big benefit protection up to $100,000 in an ABLE account doesn't affect SSI eligibility. Now, there is some restrictions on what you can use the money for, but they're very, very broad. And so you're allowed to use the money for what they call qualified disability expenses. But the qualified disability expenses include things like education, housing, which is a big one, because remember, your regional center cannot make any sort of mortgage or rent payment for you. So the fact that you could pay for housing out of an ABLE account is a huge potential benefit. You can also use it for transportation, for employment training, assistive technology, or personal support services. If you need someone to help you do something, you could pay them out of your ABLE account, and that would be viewed as a qualified disability expense, and it would be perfectly okay to use those funds for that purpose. So those are ABLE accounts. Really good, but they do have a limit of $100,000. So for some people, particularly if their family has significant assets, that ABLE account's great, but it only can protect up to $100,000. And so if you need to protect assets greater than $100,000, and you don't want those affecting benefit eligibility, you can use what's called a special needs trust. And a special needs trust is a separate legal entity that gets set up that becomes the owner of the assets so that the disabled individual doesn't take direct control of the asset and lose their benefit eligibility. And there's three types of special needs trusts that I'll mention. The first one is called a pooled special needs trust. And this is where you would take some amount of money that you have and you put it in this pooled trust. And that pooled trust is managed by a nonprofit and divided into individual accounts. And you would get a specific account that was dedicated to you. But all the accounts can get pulled together and invested together, and that way you can leverage and reduce the costs of somebody getting into a special needs trust. These pooled special needs trusts have relatively low levels of funding that is required to set them up, sometimes about $10,000 to $20,000, and you can get yourself into a special pooled special needs trust and have that organization manage those assets for you. They can make payments into an ABLE account or other accounts for expenses. But because those assets are managed and by this pooled special needs trust, they don't count against your SSI asset limit. The second type of special needs trust is a first party special needs trust. That's a special needs trust that gets set up and funded by a disabled individual. And so that's an effective vehicle. Those first party special needs trusts will shield assets from being counted against that SSI limit of $2,000. But they do have one hiccup. When that disabled person dies, they are subject to Medicaid reimbursement. What that means is the government will look at the fact that you potentially received a lot of benefits over your lifetime, Medicare, Medicaid type benefits. And when that disabled individual passes away, they will look to recover those funds that were paid in benefits out of any assets that are left over in that first party special needs trust. An alternative to that is what's called a third party special needs trust. And a third party special needs trust is funded by parents or family, and that can avoid this Medicaid reimbursement upon death of the disabled individual because the disabled individual never had ownership and control of that money. The money goes straight from the parents or family into that third party special needs trust. And then it can be managed potentially by a family member if you have a family member who understands finances and can invest that money and make payments and pay bills. Or you can actually hire a professional trustee so that when the family is gone, that there's a professional there to take care of the loved one with a disability and make sure that their expenses get paid and they're taken care of. Special needs trusts are really complicated, and I recommend that you hire a very reputable attorney who's versed in disability law, because again, there's a lot of people that understands trusts and they set them up, a lot of financial products, but special needs trusts are unique to the disability community. And as you'll hear in the next slide, there's a number of pitfalls that can occur if you're not careful, that can really work against you. So what are the special needs trust complexities? What are the little pitfalls that you have to be worried about? Well, a special needs trust can be funded by a gift. It can be funded by an inheritance, or it can be funded by life insurance. And one of the key things is if you have a loved one, a child who's potentially has a disability, you can actually buy life insurance. And if you buy what's called second to die life insurance policy, that will only get paid out when both parents or both people who buy the life insurance are gone. And it would then be used to fund a special needs trust. But it's super important that all the estate documents, any sort of gifts, any sort of inheritance, any sort of life insurance is coordinated and match, and that the beneficiaries are proper so that it doesn't impact your disability for benefits or potentially triggers this Medicare reimbursement recoupment situation when the disabled person dies. When would that happen? If you have a will, a trust, a individual retirement account, or some life insurance that might be purchased by a parent or a family member, and it names the disabled person as the beneficiary. Whenever that person dies, that IRA, that money, that inheritance, that life insurance will go directly to the disabled person and they will take ownership of those assets. And we know high assets, any assets over $2,000 will make you ineligible for SSI benefits. And so that could be a significant problem and it could disable you, disqualify you from collecting SSI. And because now that person has these assets in their name, if they then move them into a special needs trust, that special needs trust would become a first person special needs trust, which is subject to Medicaid reimbursement on the death of the disabled person. And so ideally, it's really important that any wills, trusts, IRAs, life insurance, beneficiaries, any gifts from family members all be properly coordinated with the special needs trust and have the name of the special needs trust be the inheriting entity so that the disabled person never has to take direct control of those assets and potentially lose their SSI benefits or potentially making that money subject to Medicaid reimbursement collection upon their death. All right, so that's Social Security. I'll talk a little bit about housing now. Housing really important to everyone. Everyone wants to have a housing situation that they're comfortable with, and really important for those with disabilities who want to live independently. And there's a number of options that are available. A group home or a uh, offered by the regional center is certainly a housing option if there's one available that's appropriate for that person. That's a good option because the regional center would pay for that person to live there. Affordable housing apartments, affordable housing, including city-owned housing, is available from a number of local, state, and federal agencies. Typically, these are apartments that have strict limits as to what the maximum amount of income you can have in a particular year to be eligible for that particular unit. That can be a really great thing because typically it'll allow you to have up to about 30% of the local median income for that area and still be eligible. Um, but because those affordable housing units are available at reduced rents, oftentimes very difficult to get into those with long waiting lists and other issues for those affordable housing units. The other housing option is Section 8 housing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the next couple of slides. That's actually administered by individual cities using federal funding. And so I'll talk a little bit about how that gets involved and the complexities about Section 8 housing on the next couple slides. And then, the last one is an own single family residence. If you're lucky enough to be in a situation where you can, as a disabled person, have an own single family home, that's great. And it typically doesn't affect your eligibility for things like SSI and SSDI. Unfortunately, single family homes can be really difficult for a disabled person with limited resources to maintain. They have a lot of expenses for upkeep, for maintenance, for property taxes. There's a lot of potential issues. And so, many people with disabilities just aren't in a situation where owning their own home is financially doable for that person. And so that's why I'm going to talk a little bit more here about Section 8 housing. What is Section 8 housing? It's also called the Housing Choice Voucher Program. it's a significant benefit for those with limited income. And why is it so significant? It turns out that participants generally pay only 30% of their adjusted monthly income for their rent and utilities. And so, if you have a person who really doesn't have any paid employment, and maybe only receiving an SSI check, their contribution could be very, very low. It could be as low as $40 or $50, for instance, of the rent, where the Section 8 housing voucher would pay the rest. The local housing authority pays the remaining balance, whatever is above 30% of the adjusted income, directly to the property owner. And so that's great because, for someone with limited income, they can be eligible for their benefits, but this Section 8 housing voucher will pay the, vast majority potentially of their rent. If you have that voucher, you can rent from any owner of an apartment who's willing to accept the voucher. And so that's a huge advantage relative to affordable apartments and city-based uh, rent capped units where there's a limited number of units available and they typically fill up quickly. And so, having the ability to rent from any owner willing to accept that voucher is a significant benefit as it opens up more options. Well, what is the process for getting Section 8 and getting one of these vouchers? Unfortunately, it is not a simple process at all. And so the process starts with having to get on the Section 8 waiting list in the particular city you're interested in. And that can mean potentially waiting for quite a while, oftentimes years. Eventually, though, the city will open up their waiting list and you'll be able to get your name on it. Sometimes, the waiting lists are quite long. Some cities, city of LA, can be over 5 years long for one of these vouchers to even become available. Why is that? Well, it's a really powerful benefit. And people, once they're on it and have a voucher, they typically don't leave the program at all. They're going to want to stay on it for a long period of time because it is so generous. But that means there's not a lot of vouchers that come available every year, and that's why the waiting lists are so long. Once you get selected, you have to fill out, some lengthy application, and that's basically, allows you to apply for the specific voucher, and that could be quite involved. It involves a collection of local, city, and federally mandated information that needs to be completed, and it all has to be completed correctly. And so sometimes people with disabilities are going to need a lot of help in filling out those applications. Once that's been applied for, you'll get to a point where your voucher gets approved. And once your voucher is approved, typically there's some sort of orientation meeting where they describe the program. And that starts a 90-day clock where you're supposed to go take your approved voucher and now find housing. And so, folks running around once they have their approved voucher and they try and find an apartment. And, the kicker is that, you're trying to find an apartment from an apartment owner, from a landlord who's willing to accept your Section 8 housing voucher. Once you find one, you got to write a lease. That lease has to have specific information in it to get approved by the local housing office. And then that local housing office is going to inspect the unit and make sure that that particular apartment is suitable for occupancy. And, if it doesn't meet all the requirements, which are pretty extensive in terms of carbon monoxide detectors and smoke detectors and some other items, which are mostly safety related, mostly good things, that landlord might have to make some fixes to the house to make it or apartment to make it available for receiving the voucher. Once that whole process is complete, only then will they initiate the voucher payments. And again, those payments would get made directly to a landlord. So, what are the issues and complexities about Section 8 housing? Well, Section 8 housing is not a program created for people with disabilities. It's a program that was created for people who had limited income and resources to help them, but it's not specifically created for people with disabilities. And the process itself, as you saw on the previous slide, it's got a lot of steps. It can involve significant wait times, both in order to get on a waiting list and then once you're on a waiting list to actually become eligible for a voucher. So a lot of patience is required, but that's one. It's a real significant benefit once you have that voucher, and so that's why people were willing to wait, 5+ years in order to become eligible for this program. Now, it does turn out that even though Section 8 housing is not a program for those with disabilities, that you can get specific accommodations if you have a disability and are approved for a Section 8 housing voucher. And, those accommodations need to get requested and approved, but they can be of a significant aid to somebody who has a disability. What are a couple examples of those kind of accommodations? Let's say you have somebody who wants to live independently, but isn't really capable of being alone by themselves in an apartment. You could ask for an additional bedroom to accommodate an overnight caregiver. And so, if you had an individual who wanted to live by themselves, typically there would be a limit of a single bedroom apartment, which corresponds to a specific maximum rent payment that they would be willing to accommodate. But if you can demonstrate a need for overnight support, you can potentially get a two-bedroom unit approved for a person with disabilities, and that will result in an increased payment limit for the rent. So that could be a huge benefit. Now, an overnight caregiver is not the same as having a live-in roommate. If you have someone that wants to live with a disabled person and that's going to be their principal residence, they become a live-in roommate, and the housing office is going to want to actually add them to the lease of for the Section 8 housing voucher, and they would show up as a tenant on the lease. And so you don't want to fall in the trap if they say, "Oh, do you have a live-in roommate?" and say yes when you're really talking about an overnight caregiver. Those two are very different situations. An overnight caregiver is someone that is working there to help the person with disabilities, but their principal residence is somewhere else. And they may work, only 2 or 3 nights a week. A live-in roommate is the person who's basically going to live in that apartment full time. And if they're a live-in roommate, their name is going to be on the lease for that person that has the Section 8 housing voucher. What are the other real possible benefits? One big one is rental from an owner who's a family member. So I said you can basically use your Section 8 voucher for any person who is willing to accept it. Well, there are some restrictions, and in general, they prohibit you in the Section 8 program from renting a unit directly from a family member, from a brother, sister, parent, etc. And so that's typically not allowed. Um, but if you have a disability and can substantiate the need to rent from a family member, you can get that approved. And what are the possible justifications for someone with disability that would make it important for them to rent from a family member? Well, uh, as I said, many people with disabilities haven't had a lot of gainful paid employment. And so they may lack the kind of credit history required to get into an apartment, even if they have a voucher. And so a lack of credit could be a substantiation with actually renting a house in a family member's home. If you have someone with disabilities that may have behavioral issues where they might damage a facility, that would potentially get them kicked out of an apartment. But a family member might be much more accepting of that type of situation and may be willing to work with that person and make the needed repairs. The other possibility is if you have a disability and it requires a need for modifications of the apartment, things like special locks, special railings, ramps if you're in a wheelchair, or potentially cameras where, a caregiver can keep an eye on what's going on in different situations. Many landlords aren't going to allow those kind of modifications to be made to their apartment. But a family member who has a room or a condo or ADU available might be willing to make those required modifications. And so this could be a huge benefit for someone with disabilities, but you have to be able to ask and advocate for these accommodations and appropriately document why they're justified, why they're needed, and why they relate directly to the disability. And so, it can definitely be done. Typically, the housing office is going to ask, to have a doctor sign and say, yeah, does this disability does this person really require this particular accommodation? But fortunately, for many people with disabilities, they've been using medical professionals, whether it's behavioral psychologists, psychiatrists, physical therapists, et cetera, for many years. And if you can get someone with a medical degree to sign those forms and substantiate the need, you can get these accommodations, and that can be a significant benefit and open up a lot of different possibilities of where you could rent using a Section 8 voucher. All right, so that's Section 8. So we've gone through a bunch of different benefits. Everyone wants to have financial wellness. It's the goal of all individuals who are seeking independence. But for those with disabilities, there are a variety of programs that are available that can provide these benefits. Unfortunately, if you don't manage your finances properly and consider, the potential limits to both income and assets, benefits could be reduced or even canceled. And so it's really important that you use the tools that are available, like ABLE accounts, like special needs trusts, to make sure that you maintain your eligibility for all the benefits that are appropriate. And so I just recommend that you get advice from those who are really skilled in navigating benefits because it's essential if you want to have the best outcome. And so that's one of the reasons that Autism Society of Los Angeles will be conducting the summit in September, where we're going to have a lot of experts that you can talk to. We'll go into this topic of eligibility of various generic benefits in much more detail than I was able to today, and hopefully give you the information that you want. So I encourage you to take those links that Kim had talked about and see us when we hold our summit in September. All right, questions? Let me comment just a little bit on Social Security. Go ahead, Spot.
I heard On the internet that there's going to be Social Security changes or impacts on disability benefits. I was wondering if you know anything about the Social Security situation.
Well, I can talk a little bit about the Social Security situation. Um, so there's two kind of things that people have been talking about relative to benefits. One is the passage in Washington of the latest budget and the big beautiful bill, and so that particular piece of legislation made specific changes to various programs that potentially will generate cuts to benefits that people with disabilities are eligible for. A lot of that has not been figured out yet. The California legislature is working on a budget based on the federal budget, and so it's really not clear whether we're going to see benefit cuts based on that latest piece of legislation. The other thing that's been talked about is what is going to happen to the Social Security trust fund, and is Social Security going to run out of money? And unfortunately, part of the uh, big, beautiful bill, there were some changes that reduced the amount of income people claim. For instance, if they are um, getting a substantial amount of their money as tips, they wouldn't get taxed. And if they're not taxed, then they won't have the Social Security tax taken out of it. It also said that a certain amount of other income that people receive in Social Security won't get taxed. And so what's been forecast is because of those tax changes, the Social Security Trust Fund, which is already kind of projected to run out of money in 2033 or so, is actually going to run out sometime sooner. And so that has a lot of people worried. Um, all that assumes that Congress doesn't do anything to fix the problem. And so basically, in the next 4 or 5 years, it's really important that you work with your representatives, with your government officials in your local areas, and put pressure on them to make sure that they deal with the Social Security situation so that those benefits remain available for everybody, which would include, SSDI potentially as one of those items. So, yeah, there's a lot of people worried, but in terms of the real impacts, yeah, there's nothing that's really clear yet.
Tavog, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. And what about the job searches? Are there any organizations that could help out with the looking for jobs?
Yes, there are. So, uh, I don't know, Rhonda, whether you want to take this one. Maybe you'll answer it better than me. Um, Go ahead.
Hi. Um, you can contact me. There are some groups and job coaches that can assist with individuals with disabilities and trying to help find, uh, some jobs, some opportunities. And also, there, one of the generic resources, and we're going to touch on this and hopefully have a representative at the summit. There will be somebody from the Department of Rehabilitation, because that's really a generic resource that really should be helping individuals in their job search.
Thanks, Rhonda. There's also a couple questions on the chat. First one from Cal, where do we start to get on the wait list for Section 8? So here's one of the reasons Section 8 is so tricky, because it is managed by individual cities. Each individual city has their own list. And so you have to look basically at the cities where you live or potentially want to live, and then inquire on their websites or send them an email or a letter to try and figure out what their process is, because every city does it slightly differently. And so, unfortunately, that's one of the complexities. And, just because, I went through that with my son. We went through the city of Torrance, and that's somewhat different than if you were in the city of Los Angeles or the city of Huntington Beach or Newport Beach. So, yeah, you have to go to your local housing office and inquire on how do you get on the wait list for Section 8.
I know that there's an Orange County one, but just so you know, Andy, the wait list is 10 years down here.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's even worse, and it's closed. So it's not, you have to wait. It's like Haley's comment. You have to wait for it to open to even put your name on the wait list. The wait list will open periodically. And the regional center usually does a pretty good job of sending out emails to notify us when the wait list will open up and you put your name down. But the thing about it also is once you're on the wait list, you need to monitor where you are on the wait list, because I did a pretty good job of that for Josh and he was able to get Section 8 housing. But I know other people who signed up at the same time that just kind of ignored it because it was so long and they moved or whatever. It wasn't clear how they were going to get notified. And their number came up and they just didn't find out that they lost their place. So it's important to just be monitoring, reach out to the regional center and they'll let you know. We'll let you know when we know. I'm not sure, Andy, it's interesting. I haven't seen it on a city basis. I've seen it more on a county basis here. So I'm not sure if Orange County pulls it or if there are cities. So that'd be something for us to look into down here.
yeah. It really depends on the area. Some, like LA City covers a lot of the various cities in incorporated Los Angeles, but other
Mhm.
places like Torrance, which is not an incorporated city, they have their own office. So yeah, it
Yeah.
depends.
I'll put some information in the chat. I just want to say also I've tried to get them to come and speak to us, and they won't even do that because they know that there's no availability. So let
Yeah.
me put that information in the chat.
Yeah, I would encourage you to try and get on the list, even if the wait list, if you hear that it's 10 years. Many of the housing offices do use a point system, and they will take into account things like a disability. And so you may get to the top of the list quicker than someone who doesn't have a disability. And so even if you hear that it's a 10-year wait, you should definitely apply because there is a chance that it might go quicker for you. Um, all right. Other questions from the chat? It seems like we have someone here who got denied for SSI, and what to do if she's a client of the regional center, what's the appeal? That is a excellent question. If you have a denial, um, I would
So yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. So regional center won't help you with an SSI denial. They're kind of live in separate spots on the game board of life with disabilities. Um, but you can use an attorney or an advocate to help you. I recommend using an advocate right from the get-go because it's a very complicated process and you don't know if you're answering the questions in a way that will help you or hurt you. And so it's such an important, I don't know if you agree, Andy, I would assume you do.
I
It's such
do.
an important benefit that it's one that you should, if you're taking it on, do it with the advice of an advocate And if you do, and it's very common to get rejected. So just plan for, if you haven't worked with an advocate from the beginning, then plan to work with one. Let me share I'm going to share our site where I have organizations that you can refer to. So I'll do that right now. Why don't you keep going, Andy, while I do that?
Okay. So that was, yeah, about denials. Yeah, there typically is an appeal process. I would say that because of some of the issues with the funding and staffing of the Social Security Administration, it's going to be difficult, I would say, to get in and get a meeting and continue, but it really would depend on their basis for rejection. If they, for instance, are rejecting because they don't believe the disability is severe enough, sometimes having an independent third party, a psychiatrist, have a diagnosis can make a difference, but I'm not sure exactly why in your situation they were denied. So, yeah, important that you get an expert that can look at your specific situation and advocate for you.
And then, so I put Jim's information here, but you can find attorneys and advocates on our website under Explore Resources Organizations. And usually the way attorneys work who help with appeals, they'll take like 30. What happens is from the moment you apply, once you get the benefit, they'll give you a big check for all the time that's elapsed from the time of your application. So typically what attorneys do is they'll take a 30% or some portion of the lump sum that you'll get upon approval, and they'll use that as payment. So if you use an attorney, they can help you with that process. Is that similar advice as you'd give Andy?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm just reading another comment in chat about a third-party special needs trust that was denied. I'm not sure denied for what, maybe SSI?
Yes,
Because of the language.
yes, they change from time to time. The law changes. And if you have an older special needs trust, you need to make sure that your attorney looks it over, because sometimes if you don't have the proper wording, then they'll use that. They'll see that the special needs trust is not, they consider it an asset, and then you'll get denied because you have more than the $2,000 as an asset.
Yes, that is another reason why many people will fund these special needs trusts with a second to die life insurance policy. That so the special needs trust can be unfunded until much later when parents pass, for instance, and so then the special needs trust doesn't have assets earlier, and so that can factor into the technique of how that special needs trust is funded can factor into your eligibility. Interesting one,
And
though.
yeah, Andy, should we ask? It looks like Grace's hand's up. Grace, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I have a question. Um, okay. I had a special needs trust a long time ago, made let's see now, about 10 or more years ago. Found out recently that the trust was made wrongly. And so there was a little bit of a small account. Was not that much in there. When the Social Security went to look at it recently, which is recently, I mean like 2, 3 years ago, they told me, oh, just shut that account down. Since you have the ABLE account, use that. But like I said, I've been going to seminars and My daughter's now is gonna be she is an adult. She just turned an adult. So I'm thinking of doing some things to bring contributions into her to help her. Because she can't go out to work right now. She's doing a lot of therapies and different things. So, like she will do videos or whatever and bring in contributions. Would that be considered work? Or if people just want to donate to her?
So your able account, one of the nice things about it, first of all, it's
Hmm.
really easy to set up. It's
Oh,
like
she has
faster
it.
than
She has.
setting up a bank account. Okay, great. Then in
Mhm.
terms of the contributions, those can come from, Andy, this is my understanding, those can come from anywhere. It could come from a
Yeah,
Right.
grandparent, it could
definitely.
come from a trust, it can come from you, it could come, and
Right.
there's even some provisions for earning money and having that deposited into an able account.
Yeah.
So there's a
My
lot of
question is,
flexibility.
So Grace,
my
yeah,
que-
she's earning a little bit of
my
money, maybe a little
no,
bit
no, no.
here and there. That's actually okay, and you can
My question my
contribute
question
to
is
the able account. Yeah.
my question is this. She's not earning any money now or anything, but because I have that special needs trust and it's not doing well, I need a lawyer to go back to and say, look at this trust. Because my one trustee that was the first trustee, she got Alzheimer's, so she cannot be the trustee because it's a third party trust. So, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
and I don't have the money to pay a lawyer because back then, how I managed to get the trust, I ran into some people owe me for something that happened to me. So that's how I got the money and I just put it into that. But now I don't have that kind of money to pay a lawyer. So, um, I heard about some lawyers in Orange County and so forth, but are there any, you think disability rights will help with something like that or with
Well,
some,
I think
I don't,
the real judgment call is, do you expect that you're going
mm,
to get resources in excess of the $100,000 able account limit?
that's the
If
thing.
if the money you expect your loved one to have is always going to be below the 100,000,
Hmm.
I would just stick with the able account. You have a trust that's been set up, and maybe there's no real money in it, it'll just never get funded.
Right.
So
But,
that's an actually okay thing. But if you have and expect that sometime later
uh-huh,
that your loved one is going to have more than $100,000,
uh-huh,
really you're going to need to have a lawyer review and
right.
amend the trust and get the right trustee. And
That's what I
we've had
want.
to redo ours about 3 times just because
Okay.
you always have to keep it up to
So
date.
I would have to go looking for a lawyer because back then I even went ahead and did the life insurance, but I did it to the trust.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
if
know
the
if
if the life
those.
insurance payout is going to be more than $100,000, you're going to need the trust.
No, no, I don't think it's that much. But still, I need a lawyer. But I can't do it with anybody like in
So
disability. Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say that, we have some trust attorneys in our site that are reputable, but if
Okay.
you're so
Should I just
so
screenshot
Susan,
these?
you can, well, you can go on our website. I'll put the link and
Oh,
you can
okay.
just search for it.
Thank
So
you.
that's one thing, but I'm not sure. I'm going to say something, and I'm not sure it's the best way. Um, and that is there are some public law firms that will take
Mhm.
on work for individuals that do it pro bono.
Mhm.
And in fact, we used one of them to help us with our name change. And so
Okay.
they did it pro bono and it didn't cost us money. The one thing you would need to be sure is that they handle special needs trusts and
Right.
that they have the expertise there, but they might, from a cost point of view, that might be an option. And I'm
Mhm.
gonna, let me get the contact information for those and I'll put those in the chat. And
Mhm.
it might be worthwhile if money is tight to check those out. Um, and then you can go on our website
Yeah.
Autism Society, OC.org, and go under resources, and you can find organizations, and you can look for different organizations and find some that are out there. So
Yeah.
just the,
Thanks,
yeah.
thanks to both of you for doing this.
Well, you're welcome. Any other comments in the chat? Let's see. Recommendations on a professional trustee. I saw Hitchman Associates on the website there. They do work in Orange County. They have an office up here. They're excellent. I would recommend them. But they're on Judy's site there.
Yeah, and also we've had some webinars with some different fiduciaries if you're interested. So just check out our webinars and look up fiduciaries, and you'll see we had Hitchman speak to us and a couple others. So that's a good place to go. So I put one in there. I put the one that is in Santa Ana in the chat, so you can go to their website and see if they can
The
help
Public
you.
Law Center.
Public Law Center, yeah, they're in Santa Ana.
Thank.
Okay. Think I got everybody. Any other last questions before we wrap up? Okay, thank you everyone for your attention, and hopefully you found it useful. And again, hopefully we'll see you at the summit in September.
Thank you, Andy and Kim and Rhonda. This has been really helpful, and we really appreciate your expertise. I definitely learned some new things from you folks, and it's just so nice to be part of the same family and know that there's other people out there um, training and doing some education that maybe we didn't have the time for. So looking forward to working with you all.